Times the devil tries to turn me around. Keep pressing on, 'cause my soul is heavy bound. Cause my soul is heaven bound.
What is the deal, Raider Nation? What is going on? What is happening, man? You are back for another Raider Rundown live show. And as you can see, we got a very, very special guest in the building. So today, we're going to be breaking down the head coach and hiring of Pete Carroll. You know, we've been talking about that, chopping it up for a minute. So, you know, we got to take the little lap on it. And also, we got to talk about John Spytek, how we can go ahead and fill the staff out, draft outlook, and much, much more, man. So without further ado, man, let's go ahead. Let's get this intro started. Let's get the show cracking. What is going on, man? What is the deal? What is happening? Once again, like I said, you are back for another Raider Rundown show. And as you can see, we got somebody very special in the guest, man. Somebody who is very, very respected in this content world, man. Our guy, Mitchell Renz, in the building. Once again, we appreciate you for pulling up to the Rundown show today, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate the invite. Honestly, that intro, it slaps. That's got a really good beat to it.
Hey.
You gotta get some new parts in that beginning a little bit, but I'll tell you what, that's a really dope intro, man. And real talk, I really appreciate the invite coming on here. At the end of the day, I want to be able to chop it up with people that enjoy doing the same stuff I do. Talking about the Raiders, though, I got to get that hat. That looks like a Culture Kings hat, and I'm a big Culture Kings guy, man. But real talk, appreciate it. For those that don't know who I am, Mitchell Renz 365. Hit me up on YouTube at the Raiders Report. Chat Sports. We make a lot of different content there. Instagram, Twitter, Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365. Add me as a friend.
Yeah, 100%, man. Appreciate it, man. Hey, my pops would definitely love what you said about the hat. This is a Papa Rundown special for all the Rundown familiar in there, man. That's my pop. So he's a regular guest on the show, but he be dripping me out with the Raider stuff. So definitely he be getting it in.
So you're saying that hat your dad got you it, or like he makes them?
No, he got it for me.
Okay.
If so, man, I need to find somebody who do. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, I was just gonna say, I was like, if he's making them, I need a few, but you're gonna see me with that hat. I promise you.
Hey, trust me. I know you stay decked out with the Raider gear as well. But as we hear as a Raider Rundown show, usually, you know what I mean, we have certain segments that we touch on, certain segments that we like to kind of start with, right? But every time we start with a Raider Rundown show, we got to start with the most important segment of the whole show, man, and that would be man. So a roll call is basically, man, that's when the chat lives matter. We go ahead and give a shout out to all the family that's in the chat, always tapping in with us every time we go live, man. So my guy Louis, man, shout out to you, man. He said, "What's good, nation? I saw you rocking with Carroll and Severe on their show. I like your point of view on the team, bro. Got a new member, man. Hey, that's all I need to hear, bro. And you're not a new member, man. You new family. You know what time it is, bro. Every time you come over here, bro, we got family around here. Dominic 5 in the building, man. What's going on, man? Salute. Taddy 707, man. What's going on? Silver Smoke in the building, man. Hey, I know my people were very excited to have you on the show, bro. I know a lot of people were very excited to get your point of view on things. I know me personally, I definitely wanted to get your point of view on things. So it's definitely going to be a crazy show. But quickly, I got to give a shout out to my guy, man. If you don't already know, I definitely want to connect y'all to as well, man. My guy Chris, man, from Protect the Shield. He great podcaster as well, man. He does his thing as well. But shout out to him, man.
Hit me up. I got a bunch of DMs yesterday. So, I mean, anybody in the podcast world, whether you were watching somebody else, I pulled up to y'all show the other day. That's when I DM'd you. And I know you've been on my show or like, you know, Sending in Supers, and you've DM'd me a bunch and we've talked. So this one was definitely long overdue. But to any content creator out there, like, you guys can hit me up. Let's talk some shop. I like doing it.
And we'll definitely, like, you know, a little later get into the content space of it, because there's certain things, you know, when you start getting into the content world of things, certain things people don't be understanding. But you know, real quick, want to give a shout out lastly, man, our guy Severe, you was just on the show with him, and our guy Pharaoh as well, man. He says salute Rundown Mitch, man. Shout out to the guys, man. So shout out to him, man. But let's go ahead, let's get things started, man. Let's get it cracking. So yesterday we got the breaking news that Pete Carroll is going to officially be named the head coach. I know you were in the comment section. You saw me basically politicking and campaigning for Pete Carroll. If I could wear Pete for president, I probably would have wore it that day. But either way, you saw my feelings on it. But how do you feel about that now that it's finally official?
You know, I did call it a risky and one of the riskiest hires the Raiders could have done, and I can explain why. But it depends the way that the Raiders are looking at it. If you're looking at a 3-year window and the fact that they gave him 3 years potentially to get 4, and then they also gave Spytek 5 years, legitimately the coach that has the best resume that I had the most confidence in to win in 3 years, it's Pete Carroll. And risky doesn't mean bad. Like, I know there's a lot of people that go to the Vegas to have a risk and it turns out good. I get it. It can be bad. The reason why I called it a risky hire, though, is for an organization that has struggled to get the head coach right. We always use the term bridge quarterback, but Pete Carroll, due to his age, is a bridge head coach. So essentially, you're like, well, not only do I have to get one head coach right, but I also have to get another head coach right at some point, even if Pete Carroll is a great hire. I was excited for it. He's going to bring stability. He's going to be somebody that's not going to be afraid to look you dead in the eyes, call you a mother effer. But at the same time, you're going to know that guy's got your back. That guy loves you. And people are going to want to go out there and they're going to want to play for Pete Carroll. We'll see how it goes. But it's also this. You can be excited about Pete. Depends who you bring in for an OC. Depends who you bring in for a DC. If we miss on those, the Pete hire's not going to look good. The AP hire could have worked, but we missed on some other pieces there. And then AP looks like the bad guy. And now we say AP did a bad job, which there's a lot of things in there that are true. And the same is going to happen for Carroll. We know Carroll's a great coach, but now I need him to be a great coach for the Raiders. everything he did in the past, that's kind of in the past.
And that's 100% true, bro. I'm glad you said that. Like, and as for a person that was advocating for Pete, I agree with everything you said 100%, right? Because as I was advocating, I still said he has to come with somebody that either is a succession plan or somebody you can see being a head coach in some years, right? So like that's the only way. Now we'll talk about this a little later, but if you bring him as fucking Daryl Bevel, you feel what I'm saying, or whatever, come on, dog. Like you feel what I'm saying? That's not gonna move the fucking needle, dog. We need something that's gonna move the needle. So with that, I do think he will bring stability. And it's funny you wearing that Mad Max shirt. I think in the locker room, like Max, like other guys like that, this is a good hire for. I'm not gonna lie, I do think it's a good hire for. Now, just for as far as getting some stability, getting some culture in here. But I think that's what was severely fucking lacking. And out of all the candidates, that's just me, right? We interviewed Vance Joseph, Steve Spagnuolo, who else? Ron Rivera. Dog, if we would have hired fucking Ron Rivera, I'm not gonna lie to you, Mitch. I don't know how I would have came out here and did content happily. I'm not like I would have did it, but I don't know if I would have did it happy. Bro.
I love how many F-bombs you've dropped, and I don't usually drop any. I'm glad that I know that I can drop some here. If the Raiders would have hired Ron Rivera, I might have started that show with a mother effer. You know what I'm saying? I would have been mad. But the Ron Rivera hire is the Cowboys hiring Brian Schottenheimer.
Exactly. And that's what we used to be. That's what, like a couple years ago, we probably would have did that.
It was with McDaniels. I mean, I went through it with McDaniels. I can remember January 22nd, 2022. That's how insane, but I remember the date. I tweeted out, please like retweet this if you don't want the Raiders to hire McDaniels. But that's how that hiring was to me, where I was so passionate about this guy's not going to work. Yeah. I feel that as long as I've been doing this show, Mike Mayock, John Gruden, Dave Ziegler, Josh McDaniels, AP, Tom Telesco. I know that people want to say AP here, Tom Telesco here. It's not what it's about. You're a team. We got to look at those together. The combination of Pete Carroll and John Spytek is such a clear upgrade over any regime that I have seen in the last 4 years that I have covered. And even though, damn it, I wanted AP to work. I wanted Tom Telesco to work. Even though I hated Josh McDaniels' guts, I wanted McDaniels to work. You'd be stupid to say that you didn't, right? But also, real talk, I've never been more confident in the regime we have right now. And as an organization every offseason, what's the one thing that you got to try to do? You got to try to improve. And I feel at January 25th, the Raiders have gotten better since that final game where they lost to the Chargers week 18.
Yeah. And Mitch, it's so bad with the fan base, bro. Like we hired Spytek before the coach and people was confused. They was like, are we supposed to do that? And we're like, yes, that's what you're supposed to do in most instances, bro. Hire the GM before the coach. Yep. But we're so numb to the fact of how we're really supposed to do the process, the interview process.
And that's why they're doing it right. Where
exactly
I did a show on Jed Hughes, and when you go through and you look at some of the ideologies that he has in terms of going out, finding a GM and head coach, and I can't remember the exact quote. Maybe let me try to pull it up here real quick, but it's along the lines of, if you're going to build something, it's kind of along the lines of like Rome wasn't built in a day, where instead of just trying to rush perfection, you got to build it with a little bit of stability here. And I'm going to try to find the video. I hope it doesn't play in the background, but the exact quote, and it just resonated with me. All right, here it was. This is Jed Hughes. Most organizations are not built on developing people within their organizations. They are built to try to win immediately. That is a quote from Jed Hughes, and that's what the Raiders have tried to do from head coach and GM this entire process. And I know people were concerned after the whole Ben Johnson situation. The way it was reported was a little bit confusing, and I know being a beat reporter is a really, really difficult thing. I still give Vinny his flowers. There's opportunities there. But anyway, I think people were, oh, crap, the Raiders don't have a plan. When you actually look at what the Raiders did from GM, head coach interviews, to then going out and hiring Pete Carroll, Spytek, they are illustrating your plan. And you bring up the point, you're supposed to hire your GM first.
Yeah,
that's what you're supposed to do, right? People are so used to getting your girlfriend pregnant and then getting married. Well, you're supposed let's get married first and then let's have a kid, right?
That's not how that shit works, bro. No,
certain situations happen. I get it, and I'm not judging anybody watching if that happened to you. But in my mind, I'm like, I want to get married and then let's have a kid. Not let's have a kid and then let's get married.
Yep. And that's speaking from experience. You feel what I'm saying? I fucked around and hired the coach before I got the GM. But hey,
I didn't know that. I didn't mean that then. I didn't.
Hell no. Anyway, everybody know how I go. But either way, like, but at the same time, ideally, right? But
That's
still, ideally,
bad, man. I didn't know.
Ideally, you say that's what you want to do because really, I was already like, hey, I should have did it already. But either for me, bro, even for me, it shook out how it shook out, right? But still, I think though.
Shook out.
Oh, hey, yeah. But either way, though, I still think though we are in the right direction. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah. I still think we are in the right direction as to where finally get some stability within the organization. You feel what I'm saying? And finally get on the right track to at least getting some type of identity. Now, you brought up Ben Johnson, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you kind of two questions about that. One, initially, did you think he was going to want to interview here before all the reports and all that? Did you initially think he was going to interview here? And number two, when you did hear that he was interested in the job, what was your initial thoughts?
I think the amount of times that I said there's a 0% chance Ben Johnson is going to be the Raiders head coach, I said it over and over and over again. And it's not a great destination. And Johnson turned down a job last offseason. He turned down the Commander's job potentially. That might be a decision that he ends up regretting. But no way did I ever think. Do I believe that every single football mind? I don't care if even if you were at the Tuck Rule game, there's not a single person that loves the game of football that wouldn't take 10 minutes to sit down in a room with Tom Brady. And if you said you wouldn't, I think you're lying to yourself, because if you love the game of football, why would you not want to sit down with arguably the greatest player that's ever played? And I would say he is the greatest player of all time. And for a team that's in our current situation where we don't know what our path is to a quarterback, and Tom Brady was that quarterback that was found a little bit later on, brings in a GM like John Spytek that's been able to find somebody like Baker Mayfield. You bring in somebody like Pete Carroll who was able to find a Russell Wilson. You bring in Pete Carroll who's been able to find really good coordinators. Like the Raiders, to me, they do have a path. But did I think we were going to get Ben Johnson? No. And when the reports started coming in, let's be real, we're Raider fans. The season was tough. You're damn right I was buying into the Ben Johnson hope. Like I was saying BJ's in Vegas. We were all desperate, right? I mean, we wanted it to work, but that's kind of how it goes. And we were hopeful last offseason. Oh man, we're gonna be able to get Jaden Daniels. You hope for it, doesn't mean it's gonna happen, but we're just so don't want to go down the Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Luke Getsy, Josh McDaniels offenses anymore. I'm done with those. You wanted a great offensive mind. You see what Ben Johnson can do. But I was excited. But did I really ever think? There was points there where I did. I really did. I was like, man, we might really get this guy. And
I think he had him at the finish line. To be honest, I really still think like there was a point where he actually considered it. Because I think even Amon-Ra St. Brown said on his podcast, the teams he said, and he was told by Ben Johnson, he was like, yeah, the Raiders was one of them. But either way, I was never on the train that he was going to come here. Never. I like even during the season, I'm like, bro, why would he want to come here and we don't have the most important piece that he needs?
Agreed.
No offensive guy is going to want to come here. That's why Todd Monken still ain't listened to the voicemail Tom Brady done left him on his phone. At this, bro, there's a reason why, bro, because why would I go from Lamar Jackson to Aiden O'Connell? Let's be real, bro. Like, I'm not going to do that. Even Joe Brady. I'm not. Come on, dog. Like, I got Josh fucking Allen, and I'm going to go to Josh Allen to this? Like, nah, bro, stop it. So at this point, bro, like I always said, we needed a guy that was going to take on that challenge of saying, I got to build a team. Like, you know what I mean? Sure. Like, the quarterback is important, but I got to build a team. Now, talking about the team, and now we kind of transitioning. Now we need to find kind of how we're going to attack schematic-wise, right? We got to get in. I watched your show yesterday. Some of the coordinators you were talking about, right? So I was very intrigued by some, but some you had at the top, I was like, interesting.
Was it ranked? Was it ranked? Those were ranked. No, it wasn't ranked. So
it wasn't ranked. Wasn't ranked. Okay, got you.
These were 10 names, and at this point, nobody's been reported yet. I don't know who to look at. I mean, there was a report that I saw today, which was around Tom Cable potentially coming in and being the offensive line coach for the Raiders, which we'll have to revisit that one a little bit. But for OC and DC, it's you try to put a puzzle together. Who's got connections here? Who's that? That's how I made the video that I think the Raiders are going to go out and hire John Spytek. I don't know any of the names who the Raiders are interested in. It was just here's 10 names and why I think that they could potentially be the candidates.
Right. And so for your preference now, right? So for your preference, who would you like? Let's start offensive wise, right? Because that's the big fish, bro. I feel like everybody's looking to get the offensive coordinator right. I feel defense, there's a path to get PG. We'll talk about that, but how you feel about the offense, man? Where do you want to go? What's your ideal direction? If you was and Tom is like, hey, Mitch, where we going, bro? Who we hiring?
If I get to pick anybody, to me, and I'm kind of kicking myself in the butt because the video that I did yesterday, Chugs and we were filming it, and it was right when Bobby Slovic decided that he ended up getting the boot there. And Chugs and I, as soon as we got done doing the video, we were like, son of a gun, dude, we forgot to put Slovic in that video. He would be a name that I would throw out there because the Texans, to me, want to say CJ Stroud sophomore slump was on Slovic. It wasn't on Stroud. So the easier thing to do is to get rid of the offensive coordinator instead of putting a little bit of blame on Stroud. And you're tied to Stroud a lot more than you are tied to Slovic. Maybe you need a change of scenery. But Slovic is a name that I would definitely pick up the phone and I'd give a call. The number one name I'm going to look at, though, is Mike LaFleur, and I'm a sucker for people from McVay trees. It works, and until we get a proven it's not going to work, and I get it. LaFleur went over to the Jets with Saleh. Saleh came in. He was somebody that the Raiders were talking to a little bit, and I get it. Saleh's over there right now with San Francisco, but he doesn't call plays for the Rams. And if I'm trying to build a resume, don't get me wrong. I get that the situation, it doesn't look good. And maybe for somebody like a Todd Monken, who's 59 years old, maybe he doesn't need as many things. But if you're the Raiders organization, how can you be interested in Ben Johnson and also Pete Carroll and Mike Vrabel? Two totally different minds of football. I'm going to bring in Mike LaFleur, who's learning underneath Sean McVay, who's an offensive coordinator, even though I get it. He doesn't call plays, though, for the Rams. He could call plays here. And if he sits down in a room and he sits down with a respected guy like John Spytek, a respected dude like Tom Brady, and a respected dude like Pete Carroll, that's a resume builder, even if it doesn't work out. Because in all honesty, every person that takes that job, I almost feel as if it's a win-win situation because nobody going in that situation thinks the Raiders are going to succeed. If you fail, people are going to go, oh, well, he didn't have a quarterback, or blah, blah, blah. This is a bad organization. If he succeeds, he's the one that succeeded underneath Tom Brady, with Pete Carroll, with John Spytek. And if you can get the Raiders competitive in that AFC West division with Andy Reid, Sean Payton, and Jim Harbaugh, people are going to look at that, whoever the next OC is, and they're going to go, we got to have to hire this guy. And to me, if you're the Raiders, you need somebody like that. And if you bring him in, maybe that's the bridge to Pete Carroll in 2 to 3, 4 years down the road. But Mike LaFleur is my pick. Long answer short, Michael LaFleur.
No, and that's great because Severe has said the same thing to me, 100%. Like he said that multiple times. He's been saying LaFleur. So I wouldn't mind that at all because I've said that too. I mean, the McVay tree, it's proven to work, right? Like you looking around the league, there are a lot of guys in the McVay tree that are succeeding. So I definitely would take a shot at that. Another one I would take a shot at as well, McCown. I would take a shot at Josh McCown if I could. Because he's under Kevin O'Connell, right? Same reasons that you just said. He's not calling plays over there. He's under Kevin O'Connell, but at the same time has a history with working with quarterbacks as well. So now you got Brady, Pete, and you got Josh McCown in the building. All three guys that are going to work with, you would hope, who we draft this year, right? And like who we draft this year to really help them and help them grow and develop. And Josh McCown already has been interviewing with multiple teams this cycle to try to get some feelers out there about him being the head coach. So I think it's just a couple more. If he don't get it this year, which he's not, but you don't get it this year, it's only a couple more years, especially if you stay under a guy like O'Connell. You know what I mean? It's only going to be a couple more years before he does get that chance. So I think I would get on the fast track, get him on the phone too, and just say, all right, anybody that comes here, like you said, in 3-4 years, you have the opportunity to be a head coach. Now, honestly, we watched Tampa Bay kind of do, when Tom was there, we kind of watched Tampa Bay do what we're kind of doing right now. Bruce Arians was 60-something. They passed that off to Todd Bowles in the dead of night. Nobody even knew. Everybody was like, well, Todd Bowles is the head coach now, and everybody just accepted it. Exactly. Yeah. So we've seen it happen. It was just quiet, right? Like, so at this point right now, I think exactly what you're saying. If you see you're an offensive coach, you come in here, you have success against Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, Andy Reid consistently, well, you goddamn right I should be a head coach. I mean, it's pencil me in already, man. We just waiting for the ink to dry. So I definitely think that would be another name too. As well.
The McCown one's going to be one that I do a little bit more research on, because the NFL is a copycat league, and he is somebody that is getting a lot of circulation around. Personally, my favorite random Josh McCown story, I don't know if you remember this one, but he was down here in the Dallas area during COVID, and the Philadelphia Eagles were paying him. It was something along the lines of like $40,000 a month. It was a crazy amount of money just to stay at home in case they needed to like be able to use him in a game, because it was during like COVID where teams might have been worried you could have lost your QB. It's a crazy story. If you ever get time, look it up. But he's a very like well-respected man in terms of NFL circles, quickly moving up the rankings. And Sam Darnold was a great project. And, when you think of why was Sam Darnold fantastic, I would want to look at the coaches behind that, because Darnold's never been fantastic his entire career. Bringing in somebody with that mindset pairs, just like John Spytek, who brought in Tom Brady over there, had success, who brought in Baker Mayfield, had success. And then when you look at our team right now, I'm always a believer, NFL circles, people talk, and where there's smoke, there's fire. And the moment Pete Carroll got hired yesterday, all these rumors around Russell Wilson. I almost wonder if like that's the process that they're going to do, where they're going to bring in a bridge like Russell, because they had success with these other bridge quarterbacks, and let him learn with Pete. It'll be, I say it every year, and my fiance, she loves The Bachelor or Bachelorette. Honestly, I watch the show too. The Golden Bachelor, I think, is one of the best shows in the world.
Oh, we all got that cheat show with our wives. We all got it.
You got it, right? If I'm going to make her sit down and watch whatever, football game wise, we're going to watch some shows together. But when you watch shows like that, they're always saying, this is the craziest season of all time, the craziest finale of all time. This is going to be the craziest offseason, maybe of all time. And I believe it. And I say it every single offseason.
That's a fact. But, I'm going to be honest with you, man. You said Russell Wilson, and it made me itch. And I didn't like it, bro. Like, I didn't like it last year. Even when he costed like a pack of Skittles, I didn't like it. And even now, bro, I'm not gonna like it now. You
didn't think Russell Wilson at $1.2 million was something that, to me, and I made a video on it, and I know people were all like, "Oh, it wasn't going to happen. It's not going to happen." I was confident that it was going to happen, but Russell Wilson at $1.2 million, I can't believe more NFL teams didn't jump on that. And I get it; he's a cornball. He's probably one of my most disliked players at the NFL position outside of Deshaun Watson. But I get it. He's a weirdo. But if we're going to be all in on Pete, and we're going to be on that plan, Russell and Pete did have a lot of success. And I'm not saying it's the number one dude that I want. Here was my thought process around Russ. He's a bridge quarterback. We know that. So who's somebody that we can bring in that can learn underneath Russell Wilson? Because is he a cornball? Abso-flippin-lutely. But Tom Brady wants, I believe, that next quarterback to come in, if you draft him or whoever, to sit for a year. He talks about it. One of the reasons why he felt that he had success in the NFL, he was able to sit and learn. Patrick Mahomes sat and learned. We have seen people do this in the past, and I could see them trying to do it. My point is, if I'm a young quarterback, and whether it's Jalen Milroe, Shador Sanders, Cam Ward, you're telling me you wouldn't want to sit and learn from Tom Brady. And even though Russell Wilson is a weirdo, he's going to teach them how to prepare off the field, because he does prepare off the field. And again, he's doing stretches and working out in the plane. It's weird, But you know what? If we had a young rookie quarterback and he's doing all that weird, corny shit that Russell's doing, and we're winning football games, people are going to love him for it. And I want a young quarterback that's got to learn from a year. That I don't think it's a bad idea to have him learn underneath Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, because they are so dedicated to the craft. And if you bring in a Jalen Milroe, a quarterback that I like a lot, have him sit for a year or two potentially. I don't know. You go Jalen, you go Shador, you go Cam.
We're going to get into some draft stuff too, because I did want to ask you about that definitely before we get up out of here. But for me, the reason I didn't like Russ, for me, because I said he needs a run game. He going to need certain things, right? So now at a certain portion, when we lost Josh and you looking at it, before the season, there was some type of delusion of thinking Zamir White was going to be something. But I think most of us probably thought that. But either way, as the season waned on, and as we continue, yeah, bro, and as
the next Christian McCaffrey, and I love Laube, I respect him, but I get
100%. But it's like, come on, dog. Like, you know, we started seeing it after the first fumble, and after that second one, you like, all right. But from there, bro, as the season go on, you like, we really don't have no fucking run game. Our defense, you know what I mean? We try, but we're not consistent over here. And I think Russell Wilson needs a certain style of football, just like the Steelers were playing, right? He needs a certain style of football for him to be kind of successful. So it's like,
you don't think that we could do that?
We could do it now. I think now we can do it. This last year, everything. I didn't think we can do that last year.
Hear me out. How much is Russell going to come in for? That's still an unknown. Do I want to pay Russell Wilson $35 million per year? Absolutely not. However, though, Russell's already proven that he's willing to take a contract at $1.2 million. Whether if you told me any person alive, quarterback in the NFL, you took away Russell Wilson's name and you said that guy signed a contract, and I get it, he was still making a shit ton of money, but he could have still made more. Any quarterback took a $1.2 million contract to be a starter to help that team win more football games. Every single person watching the show right now would go, all right, that's a respectable thing. And it is a respectable thing. My point is, you could still see Russell Wilson take a team-friendly contract. And for the Raiders, you're in a situation where you got to plan properly. You got about $92 million in terms of salary cap, according to Over the Cap, still second most in the NFL. Those numbers have changed. It went from I want to say 112. It's dropped now. Whatever it is, second most in the NFL. You're going to have 12 total draft picks. You started with 10. You're going to get 2 extra 6-round picks, 5 6-rounders in total now due to some comp picks. But if you could plan properly, and if you knew, and if Pete knew that he was going to be able to bring in Russell Wilson, you could plan more properly for free agency, for the draft. And when you look at the building blocks on offense, you have the building blocks personally to build an offense around Russell. You have a physical mother effer, a top 5 center already off the jump there in Jackson Powers Johnson. To me, he would be a really good fit with Brock Bowers, though anybody I would say would be a great fit with Brock Bowers because he's just that talented of a human being. You got Jacoby Myers, who loves to block, great physical receiver. You can then invest that money in your salary and go out and get Russell and get pieces that fit with Russ instead of, because this is what I don't want the Raiders to do again, sign some Gardner Minshew type dude thinking that you're going to get your quarterback in the draft. You miss your quarterback in the draft, and now we're right back to Aiden O'Connell and whatever. If you have a more clear path, and if Russ wants to play with the Raiders, it was reported he wanted to play with the Raiders last season. If you could plan it more properly, I don't think for a team like the Raiders, planning is ever a bad thing. And if you can get ahead of the ball on it, and this
so
is
you
me
say 2 years?
This is me convincing myself why I would want Russell Wilson.
I feel that. No, 100%, because I had to do that with myself a couple of times with certain players.
You got to convince yourself, or you're going to drive yourself nuts.
2 years? 2 years? Would you say 2 years? That'd be the max. I wouldn't want to go anything farther than that, to be honest.
I would say, based on the way NFL contracts are structured, if I had to guess, I would say it would look something like a blend of the Geno Smith deal, which was 3 years. I would throw around the number, probably like 3 years, maybe $75 million, with the first 2 years guaranteed, and then that last year is not guaranteed, which I know is going to scare some people. And maybe Russell will take cheaper contract than that. I don't know what it's going to look like, but that's would be my guess. And whoever the Raiders bring in, You let him sit for a year, maybe in the draft. You debate what you want to do in year 2, and then year 3, it's time to hand him the keys. Which
Yeah.
I don't know. That is merely my projection, speculation. That's me doing my best guess.
And pigs, you know I love you, man. But Rodgers is 2 years too late. I don't want none of Aaron Rodgers at all. I don't want none of that. I would have took him when Devontae was here, but no, I'm good. I think he's gonna stay over there with the Jets anyway. He probably should stay over there with the Jets. And before I keep going, man, I do want to give a shout out to IM360 Black, man. He gifted 5 memberships, man. So I do want to go ahead and acknowledge that. I appreciate you, big dog. Thank you. So as we continue, right, we talking about quarterback, and we're gonna get into quarterback, and then we're gonna transition to the defense side of the ball. But let's stay on the offense, right? So we're talking about quarterback mainly. Now, let's get into the draft, man. That's where I'm at. I've been there since I've started this content journey, bro. I think every year I've said the same thing. Broken record. We got to draft a quarterback. I've said the same thing. And again this year, I do think it's time, bro. It's time. We've only drafted, if I'm not mistaken, 3 first-round quarterbacks in the history of this organization. Like that, come on, dog. Like that is not enough. That is not enough metrics to go off of to say like we can be successful or not. Like we have to go ahead and shoot. You feel what I'm saying? So for
you can't be afraid to fall into a trap that burnt you before. You just got to learn from it.
Thank you. And for me, I'm gonna just put it out there, bro. I'm a Shedeur fan. I want Shedeur. I think if he gets in this situation with the weapons we have, with Brock Bowers, with Jacoby Myers, I do think we should go sign a Chris Godwin or maybe get a DK Metcalf because I feel like he complements the room very nicely. But either way it goes, with the way Shedeur plays football, I feel like he complements everybody's skill sets. He's very accurate, right? He knows how to get the ball on time. He can play on rhythm. He knows how to process. And I think with who we have, I think it can work. And I've never really seen him with a run game either. So if I can give Shedeur the ability to play action as well with the abilities he already has, I feel like we'd be able to really, really get things cracking. But that's my QB1. So my question for you, who would you draft? If it's you, who's your QB1? And really, where are you looking as far as the Raiders drafting a quarterback overall?
Well, my number 1 quarterback's Cam Ward, and Cam Ward was somebody that last year I said, watch out for this guy to be somebody that reminds you of Jaden Daniels. And it's not in terms of the way they play, because they don't play similar, but I'm a sucker for, and I also really like Shedeur Sanders, because one of the number 1 things that I look for in a quarterback is, can that guy get better and better and better and better? Like, does he show growth? Does he show that he can learn? Because you see guys all the time that are super, super athletically gifted, but they're just not putting it together. And when you listen and when you watch a guy who's just like Jaden Daniels, and he was not a good quarterback as Arizona State. He was just a phenomenal athlete. Right. If you haven't yet, one of our chat sports guys, he runs our Commander show. If anybody wants to go check it out, talks about this, like it's almost like a VR thing. And I got to go back and I go out and watch the show. But Jaden Daniels talks about one of the things he used at LSU to help him process the game, and he believes it's really helped him out. And he did that, and it's clear he got better and better and better. Shedeur Sanders has gotten better and better and better. One of the things that I loved about Cam Ward was at Washington State he was raw, but he did get better and better and better. You saw him learn, and I was very impressed by him down there in Miami. Though Shedeur's number 2, I got Jalen Milroe at number 3. But if I had to pick, I mean, if you told me right now, I would move up for Cam Ward. I wouldn't move up for Shedeur. But I think that they like Shedeur because of Tom Brady.
I do think. Well, this is my conspiracy theorist hour right now. I do honestly think there is a chance that we could get without having to move the heaven, sun, moon, and earth and all that. I do think there is a way, because I mean, that's the only prospect who can literally say I don't want to go a certain place. But that's this conversation for
Dion wants him to be a Raider. Dion would have never shown interest in the job if he wasn't. Dion said, the only way I'm going to the NFL is if I can coach my kids. A few days later, I'm very interested in the Raiders job. What does that tell you? He wants his kid to be a Raider. I agree.
The dots connect, bro. I feel like the dots connect. And honestly, for me, we were just talking
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, go ahead, bro.
we were just saying earlier, if you took Russell Wilson's name away, if you
Right.
took Shador Sanders' name away from him and said this football player went to an HBCU like Jackson State and was able to turn that program around, was able to transfer to Colorado, and I get it, it's Colorado. They were 1-11. You go 4-8, 9-4. He clearly got better and better and better. I understand Travis Hunter is an alien. If you took Shador Sanders' name away and you just showed all of the connections that he has with Tom Brady, legitimately every Raider fan would go, that's the quarterback that I want. But because he's Shador, people are afraid the value's there. And don't get me wrong, he's not ready to play right away. But not a lot of quarterbacks are. One of the things that I hate the most that people say is that college quarterback's NFL ready. No, he's not. You don't know if he's ready until he's on the field. Caleb Williams is an unbelievably talented guy. And there's at times where you struggle a little bit. You got to find your footing. You got to be in the right system. And if you want somebody that's in the right system, and Bo Nix to me is a good example where I know a lot of people like Bo Nix. I'm not high on Bo Nix, but I did say, and people can yell at me all they want, if you put Bo Nix with Sean Payton, they're going to have success because he fits that system. And to me, Shador Sanders is that system with Tom Brady. That's to me the plan for the Raiders. And look at the GMs, look at the head coach hirings that they brought in. They have a plan in place. And I agree.
Yeah, I definitely think so, bro.
Free agency, I'd say it's Russell Wilson. Draft, I think they're going to go for Shador Sanders. That to me is the plan.
And I would love it because honestly, I think, and I honestly think the way he carries himself makes certain people uncomfortable, but that's a whole conversation for another day. When you got a lot of when you get confident, you know what I mean? And certain people like to tone that down. But
it's different cultures, dude, where, I don't know where you're from. You don't know my background, but growing up where I did, it's as white as can be, right? And my fiance, Alex, her mom is Mexican, her dad's black. And I love being able to hang out in that, their family events because I'm the minority there. But when I listen to how different, like the growing up of like the way I grew up compared to the way Alex's family grew up compared to the way like that other family grew up, legitimately, I think the only people that are intimidated by Shador are, we'll call them naive. You know what I mean? Where
there you go.
I guess I'll just leave it like that. But people are scared of what they don't know. And people are scared of a guy like Dion and Shador that they got that confidence and swagger. And you said that earlier, and I agree, the Raiders might not have to move up to 6. Because if there's somebody, if Dion and Shador, if there's somebody where that they could do it and they go, you better not draft them. And even if a team does draft them,
we're not playing here. Yeah, we're not playing here, bro.
And people like that can't happen and blah, 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 blah. We are seeing now more than ever. Look in just the last 3 years, the power that players have now compared to just a few years ago. And it happens all the time, right?
100%.
I can't wait for the draft and free agency.
Oh, me too, bro. I cannot wait because I feel like we have brain trust that is going to make smart decisions. And keep it going. What up, Trey? But I want to keep it going real quick because we do got to get to the defense. But I want to talk about the QB3, like you said. And this is something this is going to ruffle some feathers up in here. Trust me, because we've been talking about this thing for a minute. You said Jalen Milroe, quarterback 3. A lot of our guys in here, shout out to my guy LV10, shout out to a lot of guys. They like Jackson Dart. And I ain't going to lie to you. I kind of like Jackson Dart too. But why would you make the case as of right now? Now, the Senior Bowl is coming up, so we get to really solidify some things coming up this week. But why would you make that argument for Jalen Milroe as QB3 rather than Jackson Dart?
Few reasons. One, to me, the Jackson Dart system that he ran at Ole Miss, he ran it well. He executes it. Again, he understands its system. And it kind of reminded me when I watched the Bo Nix offense where, all right, you put him in the right offense. If he's just got to go out there and execute it, to me, he can execute an offense. But really, when I watched his tape, it didn't all that impress me. And it kind of reminded me of some of the notes I had on Sam Darnold, where, again, not similar quarterback styles, but Sam Darnold in the Rose Bowl against Penn State. And I can remember that because I'm a Penn State guy. He went out there and he balled out and people were like, oh, Sam Darnold. But when you go back and watch a lot of his other tape, it was, there was some good and you could see the flash. But then you're also like, I don't know if that's going to translate in the NFL. So that's what that reminded me of. And Darnold, I get it. He's doing well now. But for a long time, we panicked. And Dart, it's recency bias. And that last game he played, man, was that a great game. And he was Believe I remember watching that game up on my roof with my buddy, and I just don't want to fall into that trap again. But then let's also just talk about what I believe the Raiders' plan is. Let me ask you this: down the road, who has more upside, Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart?
Oh, it's Jalen Milroe. It's Milroe.
I agree. So if we believe that it's going to take a year or two, and if they do plan on bringing in a bridge, I would want to take the shot on the guy that's an alien, where Josh Allen was not a good quarterback coming out of Wyoming. You look at Jalen Hurts, he has gotten much, much better, and he has that it factor of got better and better and better and better. Jalen Milroe was way different of a quarterback last season compared to this most recent season, and he also lost Nick Saban. Like, for a guy like Milroe, who's not a great thrower of the football, and to me is just that athlete, losing a dude like Saban, it's got to be a lot more than what we're putting into the realm, right? I mean,
Might be.
like how can we look at a quarterback like C.J. Stroud and go, oh, he just took a step back. Oh, that's only Bobby Slovic. It's not C.J. Stroud. There's so many things that are true to it. So if our plan is legitimately to let a QB sit, and you could let an alien like Jalen Milroe sit behind and learn from a nerd like Russell Wilson, a genius like John Spytek, a quarterback that also, didn't have the physical gifts that Jalen did, but was able to put it up here. We have all of those mind games. And if Jalen can put it together up here and you give him a year or two to be able to figure out some of those odds and ends, he does things that, a Lamar does, where you go, you could scheme the perfect defense. Doesn't matter. You could scheme the perfect defense against Jaden Daniels. He's going to break those contains tomorrow. Josh Allen's going to break those contains tomorrow. Patrick Mahomes is going to break those contains tomorrow. And then also on top of that, to me, if you're going to beat Mahomes, you're going to beat Jim Harbaugh, you're going to beat these Sean Payton guys. These are offensive gurus. What's a great way to keep those guys off the field? Running the football. Being a physical team with the Jalen Milroe, building that offensive line with a thumper and JPJ, a great tight end. We talk so much about 12 personnel. I want to see some 12 personnel with the Jalen Milroe offense. I think it would be interesting. So to me, I don't always do my grades of Jackson Dart against Jalen Milroe, because it totally depends on what team they go to. But based on this current situation with the Raiders, I would rather you draft Jalen Milroe based on all those things that I just said.
Okay. That I do see that. I mean, of course, now you talk about the traits. There's nothing you can, substitute for a big
about it.
Bro, for a big motherfucker that runs a 4-3, maybe.
He might be Anthony Richardson.
I think
don't
the
know.
Colts have done Richardson a little wrong too, though. I don't think Shane Steichen's all that great of a head coach. That's just me personally.
They did him wrong. Throwing him into the fire. He was clearly not ready to go. And then, they have him out there. There was one game he threw 13 straight incompletions or something like that.
Yeah, man. Like, come on, dog.
At some point, you go, maybe we should run the ball. He's an alien.
But he can't throw a pebble in the ocean, dog. Like, what are we doing at this point right now, bro? We got to do something else. So it's like, I just hope that now that would be my fear for Milroe, right? It'd be like, you so strong, you so physical, but do you acquire the touch? Do you ever acquire that part of your game? That would be my thing. So, I mean, transitioning real quick, because I know you said you had a certain amount of time. I want to go ahead.
Honestly, bro, I'm good. I'm chilling.
Okay. Just wanted to let you know. But let's go ahead to the defensive side of the ball, because we got to talk about the staff on the defensive side of the ball. Now, I'm going to be real with you, man. The way Jacksonville did PG, that shit was dirty, bro. It was dirty. Might as well go ahead, come back home, because the streets ain't respecting him like that. You know what I mean?
It's the problem with the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule was established for good reason, but when you don't use it the right way, there's no bigger middle finger to anybody than wasting their time. And it was a waste of time. And I feel bad for PG because he's a damn good coach.
It was, bro. I'm like, not telling this man. I mean, he on the tarmac, and you're not even telling this man that you got a head in place.
It's also sleazy of Liam. He did, he did Tampa Bay bad,
bro. I'm
telling you this right now. If he don't work out in Jacksonville, people are gonna call him a snake, and he'll get another opportunity if it doesn't work out in Jacksonville. But people will go back and they'll be like, that's one I'm gonna archive.
Now there are reasons he'll get another opportunity, but
sure,
I will say, bro, Mitch, I'm glad you said that, bro, and it warms my heart, because I've been seeing people on Twitter, regardless, say there's nothing wrong with what Liam Cohen did. I'm like, dog, are you serious? Like, it's not wrong to take a head coaching job somewhere else. It's not wrong to do that, because of course, if I had the opportunity to make $4 more million for my family, I'm gonna do that. But At least I'm gonna be a man about it and say, hey, look here, man. They are telling me that I might have an opportunity to go over here. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all, but I got to do this for the family. And I only got to move a couple cities away. Oh, come on, dog. Y'all tripping. I got to do that. I'm sorry. But I would have told them that. But him doing what he did, bro, because he kept it secret because he tried to get both deals just in case one didn't work. All right, let me go ahead and go back to Tampa Bay or whatever the case. But getting on track, Raiders defense coordinator. So how do you feel about PG coming back? You think it's a possibility? You think there's a way, a path to it? How would you feel?
I love it. I've always been a big advocate of Patrick Graham, and to me, somebody's talented when they can do what he's done with the Raiders. And one of the easiest ways that I can tell real quick how well somebody knows Raiders talk. When you talk offensive line with me, I got you. But when you start talking about Patrick Graham, it's where I'm like, all right, we're gonna agree here, because losing out on Patrick Graham also means you might lose out on Rob Leonard. To me, one of the best defensive line coaches in the NFL. Pete Carroll's a big D line guy. You might lose out on a Ricky Manning, a Gerald Alexander, two DB cornerback coaches that are very well respected. Mike Caldwell, very well respected linebackers coach. And Patrick Graham is a great teacher. And I can remember when the Raiders hired PG, people around the league were saying, "Oh, Patrick Graham is a great teacher." Pete Carroll's still a professor at USC. He teaches a class. So to me, when you have people that are great teachers, and that was also a thing where I didn't like McDaniels, because let's say McDaniels is this offensive genius. If you can't teach, you can't be a head coach. And that's a really important thing that I think Patrick Graham has, that not everybody has that ability to do. He's a great teacher. But then when also you look at what he was able to do those final 9 games with Antonio Pierce, they were the number 1 defense in the NFL. 15.3 points per game allowed those final 9 games. But then also, he's a great chef. What do I mean? You got John Gruden, Mike Mayock, okay? Again, Ziegler, McDaniels, AP, Telesco. And I keep saying this, I've been saying it all week. I want you, when you cook your food today, lunch, dinner, anybody watching this show, open up that spice cabinet. And I want you to throw all those spices, everything you got, into there and try to make it taste good. And Patrick Graham has had to do that because you're taking all these different players from different GM head coaches, and it's 3 different regimes. You're throwing it all big into a big melting pot. And let's not forget how bad the Raiders defense was for years, and how quickly they were able to flip around. And we rip on Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels was terrible. But that Raiders defense was good with Patrick Graham, despite everything going on with McDaniels. I would bring back Patrick Graham. If he doesn't have a job, I would look at it as when Mike Vrabel didn't have a job last season, when Mike McCarthy doesn't have a job right now. To me, there's not 32 head coaches that are better than those 2 guys. And if we were talking about quarterbacks, we would say, well, how does that QB not have a job in the NFL? To me, Patrick Graham is one of those top 32 defensive coordinators where we should go, how does he not have a job in the NFL? And I love AP. Who's more qualified to be a DC, Patrick Graham or Antonio Pierce? And everybody's going to say PG, and that speaks volumes to me.
Yeah. Now, for me, I do agree with the fact that I think there are not 32 better defensive coordinators in the NFL. Now, when you get to talking about head coach, I was never really on the train that I think PG could be. Like, I don't see head coach. Just for me personally, I don't see head coach. And that's just personality-wise. I don't see a personality. PG. I don't see personality-wise.
I said the only way he was going to get a head coaching gig is if the Jags would have kept Trent Baalke. Nobody takes that job, and then you can't blame. It might have been a bad situation for Graham, but at that same time, he should have taken that job. I thought he was actually going to get it because I didn't know if anybody else was going to take it.
Me too. But as far as defense, you hit on something, and people, and I get it, right? My guy Dominique, he says PG, isn't good or whatever, but we can't have revenge, bro. When we've seen this defense healthy, they have balled and they have went out there and performed. And there are guys that are in this defense have started to thrive and improve, right? And people talk about PG, bro. We forget about the last PG we had. The last fucking PG was bad. All right, now that motherfucker was bad. This right here, bro, this is different. Okay, now last year, bro, we made a good point with 9 games. I just take all last year into consideration, dog. I mean, like, dog, everybody was hurt. Everybody was hurt. And still, bro, you come out there and if the offense isn't turning the ball over, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, but if the offense isn't turning the ball over the way the defense was playing, bro, we had a shot in every game we played.
They were still top 15. Like they were top 15 in most metrics, and they were without Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins for a stint. And you're without Nate Hobbs for a little bit, Corian Bennett for a little bit. You lost Marcus Epps, and Marcus Epps was a huge loss. He's one of your captains. He's somebody that plays an extreme amount of snaps, which you kind of need that versatile safety in a versatile role that he's going to play with PG systems. But bro, believe me, I would love Patrick Graham back. And one of my biggest reasons why I wanted AP, and I have people that hated me for it, but I said, I don't know if I would want Antonio Pierce to be the head coach if you can't bring back PG. You bring back AP PG, I was on board. If it was just AP, that would have been one that I would not have signed off on.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. And the AP talk is a different talk. I definitely want to ask you something about that. But I think as far as like Patrick Graham goes, and you made a good point as well. You saw Marcus Epps go down, right? And you saw players of importance go down. And then you get to looking at these younger players that now begin to ascend, right? Like for me, before the season, I was talking about Isaiah Palamau the whole time before the offseason. I'm like, bro, he needs a shot. He needs a shot. I really think he can perform, but at the same time, he got to go out there and do it, right? He went there, he performs. Trayvon Merrick, I was on the totally opposite side of the spectrum. If you would have asked me this a year ago, I would have said, let him go to free agency. A year ago, I would have said, let him go. Now, I'm like, bro, they found the role. Now you find a role for this man and he performs. Robert Spillane performs. I like Lualu. I like the way Chason came in here and performed. Like there are young pieces that you would think, okay, when we finally get these veteran players back, they played enough. They've been in these situations. PG done put them in situations to now they can thrive with these veteran players. So the next thing, and to wrap it all in a bow, bro, I don't want to change scheme. That's my whole thing defensively, because I feel like defensively we can really continue to rock and roll how we have been, honestly. And next question I will ask, but say if you don't keep PG, another way to maintain scheme would be Rob Leonard. That'd be another way to maintain the scheme, right? And you can say, all right, bro, I don't think you would change it too much from what he was doing last year, but how would you feel about that?
I love Rob Leonard. To me is another just one of these coaches that you got to look at the work that he's done from Miami to the Raiders. I mean, everywhere he goes, he's regarded as, and one of the other jobs that coaches around the league look at is player development. Rob Leonard goes to the Senior Bowl. He's at these places, and he's one of those coaches because he's trusted in the NFL circles, but then also gets to know some of these players a little bit more personally, which you got to love. But you're right. Look at Caleb Von Chasen. Look at player, and it's like, he's not any good. Caleb Von Chasen had an unbelievable year. Malcolm Kuntz, the leap forward that player made. I mean, that's unbelievable. Tyree Wilson, he was much better this season. You can't tell me that he wasn't.
Thank you, Mitch. People will come at us with pitchforks and goddamn torches if we say that, bro. We cannot say this man.
It's still not a good pick, right?
No, it's
those
not.
are okay things to say. I mean, Tyree and I, we're good, right? Like Wilson's a player that I got a lot of respect for. Him and I, we chop it up from time to time. He lives down here in this area, and he knows, and he wants to be a competitor. Like he wants to win. He is, he really wants to be that dude. But when you listen to the way that some of these guys talk about a Rob Leonard, I don't know if there was a coach outside of Patrick Graham. Like if you told me, Mitch, who would you rather have on the Raiders last year? You can bring Antonio Pierce back as your linebacker coach, or you could have Rob Leonard as your defensive line coach. I'm going to take Rob Leonard as my defensive line coach, and that might shock some people, but that's just because he's really well respected. Yeah. With that being said, I don't think that he gets the job because you bring in Pete Carroll. I would imagine Pete's going to bring in his own guys.
That's what scares me. It cannot be Gus Bradley, can it? Like he cannot be seriously thinking about bringing Gus Bradley in his movie.
To me, Gus wouldn't be the name, but Gus was good with us in 2021. What scares me, here's how I would paint, and I get it. And this is how I'll do it because I run through these simulations all the time in my mind. If you
let me know.
hire Gus Bradley, you need to be able to run an offense, an exact defense, because all he does is run cover three. He sits in
Exactly.
cover three. You know exactly what's going to come, and that's it. But if you get the right players in that system, you know, when we had a Casey Hayward, he knew
It
that
works.
like the back of his hand. You could figure it out. My point is they ran these similar defenses in Seattle with a Chris Richard. I think could be another name to throw out there of
Somebody just
maybe
said
we
that right
bring
now.
in
Yeah.
that. But my point is, think about how many players that we're losing this offseason on the defensive side of the football. If there
A
was
lot.
an offseason to do it with 12 draft picks, all these free agency moves, if you wanted to try to build and put players exactly in your system,
That's true.
you could do it. And also, I just believe the Raiders are going to try to recreate. We've been calling it the Legion of Doom, where I want, bring back a Robert Spillane. He can be Cam Chancellor. Jacorian Bennett showed great leaps and bounds. I don't know if he could be Richard Sherman, but Richard Sherman was an athletic freak that people didn't think was going to be anything, but was out there grinding. And Jacorian's kind of got that length as well, and he's a physical player.
Right.
Then I don't know who Earl Thomas is going to be, and maybe it is an Isaiah Paul-Lamau. I know it's very different style of players, but who's going to be that safety? Hopefully Isaiah's not doing the weird stuff Earl was doing.
Center. Yeah. Let's hope he's not exactly like Earl, because Earl was over there doing some different shit.
Earl is he had front row tickets to the Black Hole, right?
Hey, but that motherfucker, he'll crack you on Sundays, though. He will get down on Sundays. That's all that matters.
So to me, if you were going to bring in a Gus Bradley to wrap a bow on that, is like, this might be the perfect offseason to do it, because we do have so many different missing pieces on defense. But I'd be lying to say that if they hired Gus Bradley, we would be excited. Hell, the Raiders weren't even excited when they hired Gus. Do you remember when they tweeted out, "We have hired Gus Bradley," and they put out a picture of Ken Wisenhunt, which maybe I shouldn't talk because I got Scarface and Sopranos confused today. But then again, I don't watch TV or movies, so maybe I'm not the one to talk. But, right? Do you remember that? They put out a picture of Ken Wisenhunt.
I do. And because honestly, at the time, none of us were excited about the hire, bro. Not even you wasn't excited about the hire. But see, this is the thing. I would love us, because we keep talking about that on the offensive side, right? Like modernize, young, go young. But like we don't talk about that on the defensive side as well. Now, I do think if you can't get Patrick Graham back, you made a great point, though. We are losing a lot of people as far as free agency or whatever the case. So if this was the year to change scheme and try to bring some people in, this is probably the year to do it. But at the same time, like, I do want to modernize.
Who do you want? Who do you want? Who do you want? Who do you want as DC? Because this is the tough one to me.
I'm not gonna lie. If we're talking about guys like LaFleur, right, and we're talking about guys like, these younger guys, I go with Rob Leonard. I would. Just by the way that Max talks about him, just by the way that everybody talks about him, you know what I mean? It's like he'd be able to do it. And we just saw a playoff team this year in Baltimore. Literally, they I think, what's his name? McDonald moved on, right? Their defense coordinator moved on, and then they promoted Zach Orr, right? So they promote Zach Orr first time, right? He's young. He was in there. He was in the building. He was energetic. But as you saw, the season, he started off shaky, but the season went on, bro. They turned into the number one defense. They had hella energy. They were flying the hell around. So it's like, I think when you take that roll of dice, I think we should take that roll of dice on the whole thing, if that's the case. You know what I mean? And of course, we can get some good assistant coaches or good veteran, position coaches and things of that nature if you want to do that. But at the same time, we got Pete in there. Let's get some other youthful blood in there as well, man. Let's get some youthful blood in there.
Yeah, and when I was talking about this yesterday, where it was like my dream scenarios, we could have had Pete Carroll be an assistant head coach, and then you can take a chance on a Joe Brady, a Cliff Kingsbury, a Liam Cohen, somebody that you're like, oh, well, they don't have the resume, they don't have experience. Maybe you could pair them together a little bit. I do like the idea of putting a young DC, young OC with somebody, that's Pete Carroll. And if you're trying to build long term, Pete, I love Pete, and I hope Pete's head coach for the Raiders for a long time. But at what point do we go, Pete's 78?
Yeah,
Pete's 79.
I mean, that's the reality of the situation, bro. Like you can't talk about this and not talk about the age. It's the reality of the situation. But like you said, right?
74 years old.
Yeah, man. But like you said, if we have the young OC, you got the young DC. Guess what? What we just said about LaFleur and all that going against Reed and all these coaches, you said the same thing about Rob Leonard. And obvious and more so,
Yeah.
if you're going against the Chiefs twice a year and you're a young DC and you're able to have success against Andy Reid twice a year, I would think you'd be on the fast track to say, well, maybe I can be a head coach as well. So you can probably get on that track.
Yeah.
So I think we getting ready to close it on out here real quick, though. I do want to go ahead and ask you number 6 overall, right? I know you said you would move, but if you're not moving up and we're staying pat, what would you do at number 6? Let's say Shador and Cam are gone. So in most scenarios, they're gone. All right. And for me, that would hurt. But either way, where are you going to 6 if they're gone?
I always say this is a difficult question because we can talk all the stuff we want about the draft, and then as soon as free agency hits, there's going to be a lot of changes at free agency just because of the amount of money we have, and just because you go out and you hire Pete Carroll, right?
Right.
You hire a guy like Pete Carroll, you're trying to win right now because you're not planning long term with Pete Carroll. Back to the age argument. So you're trying to win right now. They're going to be aggressive this offseason. I fully believe that. So to me, and it might be the bad answer or the unsexy answer, but sometimes the unsexy answer is the best answer you can give. I'm going to go best player available, where it worked with Brock Bowers. It worked with Jackson Powers Johnson. Those are two unbelievable players. And obviously, and I said this yesterday where everyone was like, how do you fire Tom Telesco and get Brock Bowers and JPJ right? JPJ, to me, is probably going to be a great football player on any team. Brock Bowers, to me, probably on any team you put him on, he's going to be spectacular, right? You don't see people going, the Cleveland Cavaliers made LeBron James. I think LeBron would have been good no matter where he would have gone, right?
100%.
So when you look at that, I want to be able to build around those guys. And I am a believer you win in the trenches. Baker Mayfield was successful this season because he had a beautiful offensive line and they were able to do a lot of stuff. If the
100%.
best player available is Will Johnson, let's do it. If it's Abdul Carter and we don't go and maybe do a lot of things at defensive end, let's do it. If it's an offensive lineman, let's do it. If it's Ashton Genty, if you're playing then it's a draft of Jalen Milroe, you pair him with Ashton Genty, I'm kind of intrigued by that an option, to be quite frank. And I want best player available. When you are a football team that has this many holes, if it's not QB, you got to go best player available.
No, and that's 100%. For me, bro, I've been on the Ashton Genty negative train, if you were so to speak, because
so many good backs.
Bro, this shit is so deep. You know what I mean? Like, of course, I didn't play before. Like, it's something I really study. Like, this draft crazy. If we were to get, like, just for example, if I can get Quinshon Judkins, I'm happy. You know what I mean? Like, or my guy from Iowa,
Omari and Hampton,
talking about him too. And I see a lot of Joe Mixon with that one. I don't know why I see a lot of Joe Mixon in him, but
he's a hell of a back.
I feel like they're so deep as to where if I have a Abdul Carter in front of me, right? Like I can't pass that up, bro. To give Max that, Abdul Carter is a different human being in my opinion, bro. I feel like he really shouldn't be at 6 if he's there. And I think my Raider gut is telling me, bro, based off what Pete likes, it's probably going to be Will Johnson because Pete likes them corners. You know what I mean? He like taking them corners, man. But
if
Will
you're going to go
with
the corner, though, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. There's a slight delay, and I hope that I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but I feel like I am.
No, you good, bro. You good, bro.
If you want to draft Will Johnson, though, Jim Leonard, the defensive backs coach down there in Denver, is one of those young names that's getting a lot of love right now. And what they just did this year, secondary with a guy like Patrick Surtain in the AFC West a little bit, that's one of those up and up coaches where if it's somebody you haven't heard much about after a show and everyone, like, check out Jim Leonard. I think Jim Leonard's an interesting name, and it's, to me, why they brought in a Vance Joseph. Let me talk about your guys a little bit more, and those are smart to do. Also, I love this. The Raiders just tweeted out a picture of its gum, and it's just obviously because Pete Carroll eats like an absurd amount of gum.
We finally getting a good social media team going, man. We finally getting like that, bro. Let's go. So when is the interview? Do you know when the interview would be?
If I had to guess, just based on the way the NFL works, Monday,
Okay.
where they're not going to do it today, probably because again, it's Saturday. The Raiders got a bunch of people down here for the Shrine Bowl. They're probably doing a few little things. And again, it's Saturday, and the NFL is the best league in terms of they're going to keep the main thing on the main thing, and they want the attention all to be on the games tomorrow. And then as soon as those games are over, I would imagine Monday, Raiders, Pete Carroll, they do their whole thing.
Yep. And that's a fact. And Fear Raider, man, you've been watching me too long. You already know, man. We call Pete over here Blue Chew Pete around here, man.
Blue Chew.
We call him Blue Chew Pete around here, man. So that ain't gum, that's Blue Chew. You already know what time it is, man.
We used to have, her name was Megan Payton, and her dad obviously is Sean, and she worked at Chat Sport. She worked at Chat Sports for a year, and we used to always talk to her about, her dad's like obsession with gum, and the amount of gum that he would eat would be even more, because you only see it on like the game. She would tell us like, oh man, he just runs through gum, and I feel like a guy with Pete, I feel like it would hurt, but maybe it keeps them young. I don't know. Maybe that's what I got to start doing is just chewing a whole bunch of Blue Chew.
It's got to be the baseball league chew, bro, because that shit looks like
big league.
Elasticity. Oh, big league. There you go. Big league. There you go, bro. It's got to be that because the way he be chewing that shit, bro, lose no elasticity in it. But
it's bazooka. Bazookas, I actually think the gum that he chews. But if he's chewing Blue Chew at 73, I like him even more.
Hey, you know what time it is, bro. But hey, we appreciate you for being here, Mitch. Real quick, bro. I definitely want to say I want to give you your flowers, bro, in the content world, bro. It's a lot of things that people be saying about your show, whatever the case, bro. But I know, I was watching your show before I even started doing content. So I got to give you love on that. And it's like, hey, you give the information how you hear it. You feel what I'm saying? You get the information how it's supposed to be given. Sometimes people can take it as clickbait or whatever the case, or sometimes you just spreading information. You know what I'm saying? It may not come to fruition, but sometimes you just want people to be informed. So I want to give you your flowers on that, bro, because I feel like we all got to come together in this content world and leave less drama in it. You feel me?
And that's why I wanted to do today. It's why I wanted to do some shows yesterday. And when you go through a season that we went through, and I know there's a lot of negativity, but genuinely the last 3 weeks has probably been the most happy that I've been covering the Raiders in a long time. And I felt like there's been a lot of good love. And I always say on my show, I'm a believer when you put good energy out in the world, good shit happens. And like jokingly, I did a podcast with a guy yesterday, and I was like, if him and I can do one, then to me, everybody can squash people's beef, and let's just move forward. Like, let's be a nation. Let's start acting like we actually like each other, because there's just way too much of the weird shit that goes on behind closed doors. So I was glad, we were able to do a lot of this, but at the same time, I want people to know, and I know it happens because the more and more the YouTube show grows, it's the truth. But like I was 4 years ago, where I was making videos at my house, and I know I'm doing it here now. I'm able to do it full time. But there's a lot of people that have watched the show from 10K to 20K and 30K, and now everybody just thinks that we're doing all this stuff where I get it. I've been able to make it my job, but we also work and grinded to get it there. And at the same time, I get clickbait and I get the comments. To me, I will never put out any clickbait content. I talk about rumors. We talk about, topics, and our show is created to do conversation. If me putting out a title, if it upsets you, I would say, why am I putting out that title? And I always say this, right? Like, how can you be somebody that gets mad at a title? Do you get mad at every single Kentucky Fried Chicken you walk into that's not in Kentucky? Because to me, those are the same type of people, right? Or I mean, you're like, oh, it's this chicken wasn't made in Kentucky. I get it. But at the same time, you're like, let's just be adults here a little bit. Watch the video. Let's have a conversation. And I don't like how I disagree with you. That's clickbait. Like, that's something that I don't do. And I'll go with people at it, bang for bang. But I also will say this. Anybody that pulls up to one of my shows, I'm going to show you love in the comments. I don't care how long you've been subbed. I'm a Raider guy just like y'all. And that's why I like doing these, because I'm a Raider fan just like y'all. And I make content based off of when I think things. So the video I did today, again, I don't watch The Sopranos. I don't watch the Scarface.
Which is surprising, bro. Which is very surprising.
Again, I grew up where I grew up. Like, my dad didn't let me watch TV. It was, I'll see it when it gets dark. Or I worked a lot as a kid, cutting grass and stuff like that. So legitimately, like, I've never seen any TV shows, movies. My fiance Alex, she's always like, I can't believe you haven't seen this, but
That's crazy.
I haven't seen it. And it's just one of those things where if I think something and I get excited about it, I'm like, oh, dude, I bet other people are having this thought. So I like being able to do these. I appreciate it. And, we'll do some content this offseason. I'd love to be able to get you on the Raiders Report as well. And, when you're showing love to me, that's what we need more of. We need more people just showing love to each other in the Raiders world and in real life in general.
Yeah. Hey, bro, it's because it's all love. At the end of the day, I always say here, bro, like we could disagree, but at the end of the day, like we all want the same thing. Like we all want this team to win, bro. So once the team wins, that's all that matters, bro. Like that is literally the only thing that matters. So again, I appreciate you for pulling up, bro. I definitely would love to come on your show anytime that you would be gracious enough to invite me. But like I said, bro, it's always spreading genuine love, 100%, bro. And anytime you wanted to come back on this show, more than welcome. I know the Rundown family definitely love to have you, man, as we continue to get this thing cracking. So anything that you would like to promote as far as your show, any episodes you got coming out, lives you got coming out that you kind of want to tell the people about before we get on up out of here?
I will be live tomorrow for Bills Chiefs on the Raiders Report. You can subscribe Raiders Report on YouTube. You can hit me up on Instagram and Twitter at MitchellRenz365. I think I can say this and we all agree with it. I don't want the Chiefs to win tomorrow. I'm going to be rocking with Bills Mafia. If you don't know what our show is, we're going to have some beers. We're going to have a good time. Hell, I might even jump through a table. If you miss party in Oakland style, pull up to the Raiders Report tomorrow. We're going to have some good times.
Bro, I got to give you no more flowers, bro. The fact you can be live for all them hours and do what you be doing on there, bro. Hey, dog, I got to give you respect on that. I tap out after 1 hour. Yeah, it's a wrap for me. After like an hour or two, bro, I got to get up and move around. I can't do that. So you
gotta learn how to do it, and but it's like anything in life. You practice. Where go back and watch my videos I did in 2018 on Facebook. People are like, "This guy's terrible," and I go back, I watch them. They are bad, but just like anything, you legitimately and this is not a knock on you. You honestly, dude, that was probably one of the best podcasts I've ever did. Real talk, and you know your shit, and you should be very, very proud of. You were the very first person I DM because you watch my show. I listen to you, and I'm always cautious of some shows that I'm going to join. I will always do my homework. I will always listen. But at the same time, I join a show like this. I got to be able to put like my name on the line of it too. So you should be very proud of how much you've been able to grow. But at the same time, nobody talks about the Raiders as much as I do. Nobody talks about just being it. Like I think I'm a professional bullshitter at this point where I can go live and I can just talk because I've done it so long. So keep doing your thing. You're going to get better at it. And you're already doing great. And I guarantee you, like, you should try it sometime. When I went live for 26 straight hours, it was one of those things where I don't know if you ever played sports, but I kind of missed that feeling of accomplishment. And I've never ran a marathon, but 26 straight hours has got to be close to it, right?
Yeah, bro.
It was a cool, like, if you like challenging yourself, try it and see what happens. I think you'd be surprised how many people would rally behind you too, because you put your pants on the exact same way. We do it the exact same, and people would want to pull up and talk to you. Real time.
I might have to think about that. I might have to. Now, the people group, you feel what I'm saying? They probably watching this right now, and they're like, hell no. Nah. But me, I probably get what's going on. But everybody, I appreciate everybody for being here. It's another episode. Appreciate our guy Mitch. We say here, man, make sure you guys are tapping on the like button. And if you're feeling what you're hearing, hit on the subscribe button as well. Hit on that notification bell. We go live at random time. We say around this mug, man, we keep it authentic from the clouds to the ground on a Raider Rundown. Safe out there, and I'll see y'all later on in the week. Peace.
I need a bad bitch with an accent, serving in peace, still taxing. Just got tapped for the young cash app, moonwalking like a young Mike Jackson. Yeah, shots to the head, ride clean and still fuck feds. Realest nigga and it's on my kids, so who the fuck gon' wanna test me, bitch?